Welcome to Coffee Break with Rachel Vigil, taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel Vigil.
Happy Monday, everybody. I know it's not exactly a great Monday because the Denver Broncos lost yesterday. The Avalanche lost yesterday. It was a bit of a heartbreaker weekend, too, because the Nuggets also lost over the weekend. There's a ton to get into. Andrew Mason will join us here in a little bit to tell us what Sean Payton said this morning during media availability. But I also want to get into some of the other things that had happened throughout the weekend. And I do promise I'm not going to bag too hard on Russell Wilson today because I know a lot of people who, I won't name names, but I got quite a few apologies yesterday for everybody coming at me being like, oh, Rachel, Russ maybe isn't what we all thought he was. And James Marilat can actually hear me right across the hallway over there. And he is obviously on the Russ bandwagon. But a lot of people are now saying, well, do you keep Russell Wilson? Do we keep him? Do you just deal with the money, even in the mediocrity? I don't have the answers to that. However, I do have an answer to can the Denver Broncos make the playoffs and what's the playoff probability, which we will get into in a little bit. So I would love to hear your guys's, do you believe in the Broncos enough to be able to clinch a playoff spot? What do they have to do in your mind to be able to clinch a playoff spot? So I promise we'll get into that playoff probability too. But good morning to everybody. Thank you, Paul, for hanging out with us. Troy says, yep, he does think that the Denver Broncos can make the playoffs. It's definitely going to be a question. I'm curious to hear Andrew Mason's. He was on a plane earlier this morning coming back from Houston, you guys. So he's going to be a little tired, but he always brings all the good stat lines too. So I do want to get into a few things, though, that just kind of happened over the weekend. And I feel like it's been the talk of the town, essentially. And the first one being that Florida State got snubbed. And I am on this 50% where I'm not 100% sure how I feel. I get why the committee took him out. I'm sorry, you lose your starting quarterback. I know you were still able to win the game, but you lose your starting quarterback 2-3 weeks ago at this point, I guess. And you just don't look as good. You guys, they had 55 yards of offense yesterday, passing offense. That's not very good. And so I understand why the committee did it, but I'm also like, don't play the football gods. You don't have to do that. Don't play the football gods. Let the football gods decide for themselves. They were undefeated this season, even without their starting quarterback. They were still undefeated. So don't play football gods. I don't know if they should have got in. I know you're also doing this about, you want the best teams out there that are 100% and they're ready to go. So I'm curious how you guys feel about this one because I just feel for all the Florida State players. And I know their quarterback even put out an Instagram statement being like, I'm so sorry. And you're sorry for what? That you broke your leg? That's not on you. That has nothing to do with it. He shouldn't feel sorry. He shouldn't feel like he let down FSU fans. And that breaks my heart a little bit. And so I'm just so torn. And I'm really curious how you guys feel because I absolutely am like, Florida State probably should have made it. But would it have been the best football game? Probably not. And so are the four that are in it a better football game? Absolutely. My heart breaks for all those Florida State players. And so I think that's why I'm like, oh, I just don't know how to feel. But of course, the committee is going to do what the committee is going to do. FSU was robbed. Yes. FSU faced a horrid QB and barely won. I feel bad for FSU, though. I know it's just a tough situation overall. And so I struggle with it. I was debating bringing it up on the show, but I'm like, I feel like a lot of people struggle with kind of how this is going down and saying, oh, they technically should have made it, but also it's not going to be the best football game. So I don't know. It's just definitely one of those things where I was like, oh, this is so unfortunate. Moving on, though, we will talk a little bit about some fines. The NHL and the NBA were handing them out. Jokic got a $2,000 fine for post-game flopping. So this was handed out obviously after the game. The NBA comes around and was like, no, that was a flop. So he gets fined $2,000. And then the Avalanche Ross Colton has been fined $5,000 for a dangerous trip on Anaheim's Leo Carlson. So $5,000, which is the maximal penalty right there. So 2 fines that are going on in the NBA, nothing too crazy. But then we have to talk a little bit more about Jokic because you guys, we are so dang lucky every single week that we get to watch Nikola Jokic. Listen to this. He is leading the NBA in points, rebounds, and assists. He is leading the NBA in each of those categories. It's absolutely insane. I've never seen something like it. He's so dang good, you guys. It's just crazy. He's 10 points above Giannis in points. He's 6 total rebounds above AD. And then an assist, he's only 4. But the fact that he is number 1 overall in all of those stats in the entire NBA is just absolutely crazy. And I'm so glad that he is a Denver Nugget. And you guys, I'm going to say this because I don't think it's going to last very long. Enjoy him while he's here, because I really do not believe that it's going to last very long. I think Jokic will be gone before a lot of us can even believe it, and it's going to be absolutely crazy. Other thing I want to talk about, because my CSU Rams, baby, are still undefeated, and I'm hyped about it. Obviously, we had the Rocky Mountain Showdown last week. Jake Shapiro was at the game. Matt Smith was at the game. Andrew Mason, I believe, was at the game. Jared Merrilat was at the game. That was good. I was obviously happy that the Rams walked away with a win, but they also walked away with a win against Washington this weekend. This Rams team is no joke, and they're able to find ways to win. Isaiah Stevens was the Mountain West player or preseason player of the year. Here's the thing. He got in early foul trouble, and they were still able to find a way to be able to utilize. They ended up coming back down 7 points, and it ends up coming down pretty much to the end of the game, and they're able to find ways to win. And for that, my friends, I am proud to be a CSU Ram. I know everybody wants it to be a football school, but I worked in the basketball department there, so I always look at CSU as a basketball school. I think it's so much fun to watch. What Nico Medved has done up there has been absolutely incredible. He gets his 100th victory, too, over the weekend. He has done such a good job, and I'm so excited to see where they end up in the poll too. So there's plenty of good things to discuss around the Rams too. So I hope you guys, if you're able to, check out a game up in Fort Collins. It's always a blast to go up there too. And again, this team is really special. They're going to make some moves, I think, in the tournament this season, and I'm really, really looking forward to it as well. So just a few updates for everybody on that front. I do want to check out your guys' comments. Let's see. Rachel, are you aware of the Sam Girard situation? I am aware of the Sam Girard situation. Of course, we always hope for the best, and I do respect his ability to be able to say, you know what, I need to walk away right now. I do respect that a ton. However, people's mental health is people's mental health, and I don't ever want to be somebody that speaks on it. Again, I love that the Avs organization looks at it and says, you know what, you got to do what you got to do. Go do that. So we obviously wish him very well. Done. The Broncos are done. Houston isn't even good, though. CJ Stroud is a good rookie quarterback, you guys. We have to give him credit. And I said this all along last week. He throws the deep ball, and man, did he burn the Broncos defense plenty on the deep ball yesterday. Honestly, I was so surprised with how early we saw. I was like, what are we doing? Like, did we not understand that this is something he's really good at? It felt like players were like 3 or 4 steps back in the NFL. That's just absolutely crazy. The defense obviously didn't get any turnovers, and they had such a long turnover streak, but it almost seemed like they didn't take them seriously. And I don't want to say that because obviously, like, they still played the game really hard, and they had some fantastic stops, and they were able to do a lot of good things. But it was almost like they got too confident that they were going to be able to walk away with the turnover. And this Broncos team needs them 100% to get a turnover. That's really like one of the only ways they can win. And everybody's bagging on Russ today. And honestly, the entire offense just didn't play good. The offensive line didn't look good. There were plenty of dropped passes that didn't look good. And there were definitely a few missed calls in that game. And I know everybody's blaming the refs and saying, oh, well, if the refs would have called this, the refs would have called that, the Broncos may have won the game. You got to be better than that. And the Alex Singleton, CJ Stroud thing, let's talk about this real quick. I get it that CJ Stroud 100% kind of initiated it. And, like, don't touch the quarterback in general, Alex Singleton. Like, let's just stay away from that. You're not trying to man up and be like, all right, let me puff my chest a little bit on the rookie QB. So absolutely don't touch him. The play was called dead. The whistle had been blown. You have to be a smarter player than that. And everybody, again, is like, oh, well, CJ Stroud's the one that started it. No, don't touch the quarterback. You have to be smarter than that. And I was really frustrated. And Alex Singleton, he's been all right. Like, I don't think he's done anything super special. Like, it seems like he's always featured on some of the big plays, but he's also the one that, you know, they're allowing them to get by. Like, he's making the tackles 7 yards down the field. Well, why weren't they getting the tackles on the 1 or the 2 off the line of scrimmage? Like I get it. You're able to get the tackle, but your job is to stop it way before the 7-yard line. So that part's frustrating. Again, I do think it's on Alex Singleton, not on CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud can do whatever the heck he wants, really. He's a quarterback. That sounds bad, but that's part of the NFL, and that's what it is. Here's the other thing. The Denver Broncos trusted Russ more yesterday. They opened up the playbook just a little bit more because he had been playing so well. They opened it and they said, "All right, Russ, we're going to peek a little bit more here and see what we're able to find." And what happened? 3 interceptions. Now, actually, let me know in the comments because I'm very curious. How many of those interceptions are you completely blaming on Russ? Some people are saying all of them. Some people are saying, maybe 1, maybe 2. Personally, I'm kind of all in on the 3. I think that he struggled and the defense was able to really read everything off of Russ. And that's a problem. You can't have everything be read completely off, and you can't have a ball be tipped or anything of that nature. That's really where it gets frustrating. And I feel bad picking on Russ because of his height. Like, that just doesn't seem fair. But man, you got to be able to get that ball over the line of scrimmage. You can't have any of those hands be able to get up there and block it. And so it's been frustrating. And I see Andrew Mason behind. So I'm actually really curious to hear what Sean Payton had to say this morning, because I feel like he was kind of calm and collective last night. Mace, how are you, first of all?
I'm doing all right. How are you, Rachel?
Are you tired? I know you were on an early morning flight this morning.
I'm very tired.
Well, I first of all appreciate you for hanging out.
Yeah, well, good to see you, as always.
Good to see you. Let's dive into it, Mace. It's obviously, we were all kind of hoping for a win. We're like, all right, here we go, Denver Broncos. It's your time to shine. Really prove the world that you are the hottest team. And they fall short of that. And I hate to put the blame just on one person, but I'm curious. Are you putting a majority of the blame on Russell Wilson?
No, I mean, I, there's enough blame to go around.
Yeah.
To where the majority of the blame doesn't fall on any one person, not even playing the quarterback position, in my opinion.
All right, so tell me this. How much of the defense gets the blame? Right? We've been saying the defense is the one that's been keeping them in the games. They've been getting all of these turnovers. They allowed 22 points by a rookie quarterback, a very good rookie quarterback, not to discredit him at all. But how much of the blame gets put on the defense?
I mean, I haven't really done a pie chart to say this gets this percentage, this gets that. It's more like, okay, you look at the defense, and Sean Payton mentioned this on the conference call. He referred to getting baited into an unsportsmanlike conduct, talking about the Alex Singleton play, right? I thought the run defense was a bit better than I expected. It wasn't as bad as it has been, although the Texans, the running game is not the strength of their offense in any way, shape, or form. But I mean, you look around and it's like, oh, there's blame all over the place. There's a busted protection that allows Will Anderson to effect a Riley Dixon punt, which means it goes 22 yards out of bounds, and the field position leads to Houston getting a field goal. In the pass coverage end, Justin Simmons talked about miscommunication. You look at that second long play to Nico Collins, and Pat Surtain passes Collins off, but the safety isn't rotating over there, and boom, you've got an explosive play that has the Texans moving again. You've got, the pass rush was kind of inconsistent. And then the other thing also, you can't deny the element of good luck in the Broncos winning 5 in a row. And when you recover 10 fumbles in 4 games, that's something that nobody had done in 16 years in the NFL. You can't count on that going forward. And there it is in the third quarter. And by the way, of 15 fumbles, 10 in those 4 games, 10 were recovered by the Broncos. So that's a higher rate than you'd expect. Usually about 50-50, or when the other team fumbles, it's actually a little bit under 50% that you are able to get that into a takeaway. And the ball, Jonathan Cooper has the chance to fall on the ball. He can't do it. It squirts away. Texans keep it and punt, right? And so the luck, you can't deny the luck element as part of what the Broncos winning 5 in a row. It's not everything, but it is a part of it. And then it goes away from you in this game as well. And you've used up your margin for error because of the miscommunication, because of the bust. And then also, Russell Wilson with 3 interceptions. Although, look, parsing those out, one is deflected. One trying to make a deep play to Courtland Sutton. It's a nice play on the ball by Stingley reacting to it. Stingley's coverage kind of baits Russ into that throw a little bit, and the throw is just a little bit under rather than over the shoulder.
And Stingley read that perfectly.
Yeah. Yes, he did. So, and then the last interception at the end, you're trying to make a play at that point, right? And you kept it alive. You're looking in the end zone. You think you see Kroll, and then there's multiple defenders there, and that's it. I mean, I feel like we're rationalizing everything, but again, you can point to that. You can point to some protection issues up front. There are a lot of fingerprints on this loss, Rachel, not just Russell Wilson.
100%, and I agree with you. How many dropped passes did we see, which could have put them, in a position to maybe get a few 3 points? Like, who knows? The offensive line didn't do a good job of protecting Russ, but also it felt like, Mace, they didn't stick to the game plan that's been working the past couple of weeks, and that was really utilizing the rush. And I get it. Like, I think the plays came out almost even, I want to say, but it felt like early on they were trying to be so aggressive and just throw the ball nonstop. At least that's how I watched the game. I haven't gone through and like actually scouted out the plays, but it just felt like they went away from things that were working.
A little bit. I'd say they were, Houston has a weak pass defense, and you were trying to exploit that downfield and get some shots, and didn't quite work out. Over the course of the game, the Broncos did end up running more than they threw, although some of that was on Russell Wilson's scrambles. So those were actually designed passes.
Yep.
Russ is still scrambling a lot. I mean, when you are the Broncos, you don't have much of a margin for error, and if you're a little bit off, that can be it. And they're just one of those teams in that muddled middle right now. And I'd say Houston is probably on the top end of the muddled middle and maybe clearly ascending as a franchise long term. And part of it is you look at the talent out there and think about this, like high picks that they've had: Derek Stingley Jr., Will Anderson Jr., C.J. Stroud, and all of them came up huge on Sunday, right? Those 3 guys played like you expect top 5 picks to play in terms of being able to have difference-making moments. And they play 3 of the core 4 positions, the core 4 being blindside pass protector, quarterback, edge rusher, corner. Well, that's 3 of the 4 that you've got covered there. And then in terms of protector, they've got a lot invested in Laramie Tunsil coming over there. So this is a team that's got primary investments at core 4 spots, and you've got by and large players who played pretty well on Sunday and were a reason why they won. And maybe the Broncos aren't quite at the same, don't have quite all of that in terms of young ascending talent the way the Houston Texans do.
What was the locker room like yesterday? Was it a team that still is just like, this one got away from us, but we know we have more fight in us to make the playoffs? Or was it one of those locker rooms, Mace, where you walk in and it's like, that was it, man. We had to win that to stand a chance?
It was definitely the first one, that more than the second one. I do think also Sean Payton, he laid the groundwork on that last week, and he mentioned it on Friday, kind of downplaying this game being the be-all, end-all. And he's got a point. And look, the teams that the Broncos are competing with, these are teams that are capable of losing anybody, right? They're the 7-5, 6-6 type teams. Among the 7-5 teams, Cleveland's got a bunch of injuries. Pittsburgh's got a bunch of injuries, right? You could say maybe Pittsburgh was on borrowed time a little bit, and it looked like maybe their time was up yesterday against Arizona. Cleveland is trying to figure things out with Joe Flacco at quarterback after, cycling through P.J. Walker, Dorian Thompson-Robinson in the wake of losing Deshaun Watson. And Indianapolis is really interesting because they, nothing about this has gone to plan for them. Anthony Richardson gets hurt early. They turn to Gardner Minshew. And Minshew may well have been better for them this year than Anthony Richardson just because Minshew has the experience. But he's doing the Gardner Minshew thing. Sometimes he'll make plays that can lose you the game, but he'll make plays that'll win you the game. They're without Jonathan Taylor at running back for the next few weeks. They just keep finding ways. Indianapolis is incredibly resourceful. And so now I'm looking at these teams and you think, okay, maybe the clock's not going to strike midnight on these guys before they clinch a playoff appearance because they just keep seeming to find paths to success. And maybe for the Broncos, it lies in Cleveland and Pittsburgh struggling and then that spot opening up for the playoffs. Because unfortunately, they're effectively 2 games back of the Texans because of the tiebreak. They win the tiebreak over Cleveland. They lose the tiebreak to Indianapolis right now because of conference record, and that's another thing. One area where on the next level where yesterday's game hurt, it wasn't only a loss to a fellow playoff contender; it was a loss to an AFC team, and the Broncos are sitting there at 3-5 in the AFC. Now they've got some chances to make that up and get that to 7-5, but they're going to have to be perfect against AFC foes.
All right, Mace, I've got a playoff projector right in front of me, or like probability possibility thing. So I'm going to go through the next few games that they've got, and I want you to tell me if it's a win or loss, and we'll see what the possibility is. That sound good?
Okay.
All right. At Chargers, win or lose?
Win, even though they've never won it so far.
Okay. So if that happens, it takes them up to a 38% chance of making the playoffs. At Detroit, Broncos win or lose?
Loss.
I know, and that one hurts so bad, Mace. That one stinks. If they lose to the Lions, it's a 26% chance of making the playoffs. Now, we'll just say real quick that they somehow beat the Lions. Oh, Mace is gone. I don't know where he went. It ends up taking them to a 59% chance of winning or of making the playoffs. I'm not sure where Mace went. We'll hopefully get him back here in just a second. Okay, so let's say I think that they will be able to beat the Patriots here. So they win at home. All right, he's back.
All right. Hi.
You're good.
There we go. Let's get.
I think that they're going to beat the Patriots at home on Christmas Eve, May. So if that happens, they're at a 35% chance of making the playoffs. And you're just kind of looking at that like, oh, that's not exactly great. What about Chargers coming to the Mile High City on New Year's Eve?
Broncos have won actually 19-20. 4 in a row against the Chargers at home. I think they'll get that one.
Okay. Broncos win. That takes their chance to make the playoffs to 57%. Still not good. You're having to ask a lot of other teams to help you out to make it. And then final game of the season in Las Vegas against the Raiders. Are you taking the Broncos or the Raiders?
I'm taking the Broncos.
All right. Now, if that happens, Mace, the probability is giving them a 79% chance to make the playoffs. So you have them essentially winning 4 games with 1 loss against the Lions.
Mm-hmm.
That's not bad, Mace.
That tells you that 10-7 is probably going to be good enough. Let's just take it's interesting to take a look at. Is this the ESPN predictor or is this someone else?
Let me see real quick. This is just based on 80. I was going to say, it doesn't say exactly which one, like which website it is. Okay. I'm on the New York Times. That's where I got this one. But it's based on 85,000 simulations.
Okay. So it's interesting because I'd like to take a look at how that's affected by other teams as well. So Pittsburgh's next 5 games are New England at Indianapolis, Cincinnati at Seattle, at Baltimore.
Yeah.
So New England is awful.
Terrible.
And Cincinnati doesn't have Joe Burrow.
Quick side rant. Is Bill Belichick going to be the coach of the Patriots next year?
No.
I agree. Okay, continue.
I think I wouldn't at all be surprised if he's coaching the team that he lost to yesterday.
Wouldn't that be so crazy? The NFL is wild. Mm-hmm. The NFL is just wild.
Don't think he's not going to go get on his boat, whatever it is, 6 rings or whatever, and retire. I think he's going to try to have one more act in him. I also think he does not want to develop a quarterback. He wants to step in and have somebody who's ready to go and Justin Herbert is that guy with Los Angeles.
Well, because it
I
affects
mean,
his
shoot,
outlook, right? Of how
yeah,
everybody's will be like, it was Brady. It was never Belichick. He's got to be able to go do it without Brady.
yeah. Even though, like, well, he did it with another great quarterback. So,
Mm,
I mean, I think he's always going to fight that perception.
100%.
Um, is Bill Belichick. But yeah,
100%.
but so the Steelers basically, if they beat the Bengals and they beat the Patriots, the Steelers are sitting on 9 wins, and the other games are at Indianapolis, at Seattle, at Baltimore. I mean, they could lose all 3 of those, right?
Yeah.
They could absolutely lose all of those games. So that's something I think to keep an eye on. Of course, we see Seattle, who's struggling a bit right now in the NFC, although they're right there in the playoff picture. At Baltimore in Week 18 is interesting because what if Baltimore is locked into its playoff seeding? Maybe Baltimore's locked into the number 1 seed by that point, right? And imagine if you're the Broncos and you need some help from Baltimore to beat Pittsburgh, and Baltimore's already clinched its seeding and can't move.
For sure.
And surely they'll play backups in that game. So this is another reason why you want to kind of take care of your business. You don't want to go into Week 18 and need some help. So just to kind of look real quick at Week 18, in particular, the other matchups.
Mm-hmm.
Indianapolis hosts Houston. That's potentially very interesting, right? But imagine the thing about Indianapolis hosting Houston is that one of those teams has to lose, right? So one of those teams is getting a 6th loss guaranteed. And in the case of Indianapolis, the other games they have are at Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, at Atlanta, Las Vegas. Indy's hard to figure, even though they won 4 in a row. They've won 4 in a row over Carolina, New England, Tampa Bay, and Tennessee. They're taking care of business against the lesser lights. But that Pittsburgh game in a couple of weeks, or 12 days, I should say, it's the same day as the Broncos-Lions game. That's going to be interesting. That's going to tell a lot about the Indianapolis Colts and the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think.
Which kind of stinks that it's both of those games are on that Saturday, because I would love for one to be on that Saturday, that Sunday to really pay attention to.
Well, it's not the same time as the Broncos. You can watch the Steelers Colts before you watch Broncos Lions. I mean, you basically that's the game immediately preceding the Broncos game. So
True. And I guess that one, the Broncos aren't at home that day. I keep thinking that Broncos Lions are here in Mile High City, and that is not the case.
It's because the last 2 Broncos Lions games have been in Denver. The Lions came here in 19. The Lions came here in 21. So I think that's why it's like, oh, you're used to them coming to Denver, but not this time.
True. All right, Andrew Mason. How you feeling though, my friend? Like, honestly, it can be an emotional roller coaster to follow this team this season, and you are one that is in there day in and day out. And I know you're tired because you were up early, but how are you feeling about this team?
I think they're still in good shape, but yesterday serves as a reminder that this team still has a pretty narrow path to winning, and can't be sloppy, can't turn the ball over like that. It's funny because like they didn't have any giveaways early. They all came late, so they dug the hole in different ways. But then the giveaways really, in reflection, neutralized their chances to get out of the hole. And actually, the Texans had the game-winning touchdown off of the deflected pass that Darryl Stingley Jr. intercepted. And also, I want to see what happens with Russell Wilson the next 5 games. To say that things are settled regarding Russell Wilson in 2024 is false at this point. He's got to have some bounce backs here. He's got to show that yesterday isn't the start of something bad. That is just an aberration. Look, he hadn't had any interceptions since the Chiefs game the first Chiefs game in October, and he had 3 yesterday. Let's see how he bounces back here in the next couple of games. The Chargers defense, it's inconsistent. The Lions defense is really shaky, But then again, Houston has a shaky pass defense, and they still made some plays at Wilson's expense. So I want to see what happens the next couple of games as well. There's a lot on the line, and not just for the team, but for Russell Wilson too.
100%. Plenty to dive into. Andrew Mason, as always, appreciate you hanging out. Go take a nap, my friend, and that way you can feel a little bit more well rested. And we will definitely have you on again next week. So thank you.
I can't. We have a meeting.
Unbelievable. Who has to work on a Monday? After that meeting, though, take a nap. All right, everybody else, you get back to work, and we'll see you 10:30 tomorrow morning for another episode of Coffee Break. Love you all. We'll see you then.